Thank you very much for inviting me to share my research with you. What I'm going to share with you is actually an exhibition that I curated in the past few months and which just finished in September. My paper is called Visualizing Imaginative Body, Patricia Piccinini, who is a very well-known artist from Australia. And I will show you some images of the show. This is the poster of the exhibition. The projection and the image doesn't really show the quality of the images which I see on the screen. With passion and care, Patricia Piccinini has been curating her imaginary creatures which seem to live alongside with us and have built emotional connections with us. The exhibition Bodyscape, Patricia Piccinini, curated by myself, a usual museum of art in Taiwan in 2016, deals both with issues surrounding bioscience and intends to raise awareness for any creatures which are at risk of existence. The exhibition is displayed on the second and third floor of the museum and features 55 pieces of work, including photograph series, sculptures, a video, and series drawings. This paper will analyze Patricia's works under two themes, including the narratives of Bodyscape and the imaginative body of Bodyscape. In the first theme, the narratives of Bodyscape, I will need to firstly talk about what narrative is. A narrative is a story of real or imaginary events. And these categories cover three photography series, including the fixed stories series. These are still, this one is the one of the pieces of fixed story series. In 2011, Patricia curated 6 photographic works entitled the Fixed Story series. Fixed Story is an area in the city centre of Melbourne in Australia where Piccinini curated these images because she utilizes familiar neighborhood areas and landscapes. The imagery creatures created by Piccinini seems to have just around the corner from where we are. For example, a street corner, a studio, or someone else's house. The Fixed Story series curates a kind of environment where people mythicized creatures share the same living environment. What I mean mythicized creatures are, for example, this boy, which looks like a combination of human beings and perhaps a monkey. Despite the fact that these creatures are odd-looking, strange-looking, viewers should notice their tender and vulnerable characteristics and the intimacy which exists between us and them. For example, this woman is cuddling this odd-looking boy. The Fixed Story series visualizes people's acceptance and the tolerance of other creatures by adopting children as the main characters in the work. For example, you can see a lot of children chasing after a very strange creature there. Piccinini intends to express her care for the vulnerable people and creatures. She deliberately utilizes characters placed in the urban landscape, which form the background settings of her work, about which she has stated that, and which I quote, both these figures are creatures which are at home in a particular ecosystem, which is the urban, which she regards urban is a different kind of, a special kind of ecosystem. We don't tend to think of the urban environment as an ecosystem. We usually imagine it as something within which has replaced the ecosystem with something else. However, it is an increasingly dominant ecosystem on this planet, and one to which not many species are well adapted. My interest in these images that is by the artist is how these creatures interact with the species that most dominates this particular environment, as she meant us. So like the work which I just show you here, which is called Library, 8:45 p.m. It is rather interesting that artists adopt the specific time as the title of the work. Of this series depicts a woman cuddling a boy whose face has the features of other animals. Looking into the far distance, the woman could be this boy's mother, who exhibits a firm and strong sense of determination in her expression. That you can see here, she looks really strong, as if she would do anything to protect this boy, because he might be treated unfairly by others. And in this piece, which is called Ellie, 11:15 a.m., there are 6 children running after strange creatures in a small alley. The artist asked whether the children are playing with the creature or where they perhaps may be teasing them. And the next piece, Sitting Room 2:30 a.m., presents a girl cuddling a bottom feeder with her left arm. This piece is called a bottom feeder. It's not just in a photograph, but the artist actually created a sculpture, a bottom feeder, which I will introduce in a minute. The girl looks as if she's lost in deep thought, and a strange-looking creature in her arm looks like her pet, resting gently at her side, that you can see there. The bottom feeder, the main creature featured in this series, seems to have integrated very well into people's lives, like the bottom feeder looks sitting there comfortably with the girl in the sitting room. The next series is called Nature's Little Helpers, which this is the image of the in the gallery space, and that series of photographs were displayed there on the wall. The Nature's Little Helpers series was created in 2005, following Patricia's Piccinini's first experience of including her imaginary creatures in photographs in 2000. During Piccinini's solo exhibition sculpture at the Roach Miller Gallery in New York, she indicated that in Nature's Little Helpers, the humanoids, quasi-human and quasi-monkey creatures were created to protect a kind of bird which is called short-term hayhole in Victoria region in the southern eastern part of Australia. Like, you probably can see more clearly here that this is a specific kind of creature that the artist created. And in her imagination, this creature's job is to protect a specific kind of birds. For example, you probably can see they are birds. It's difficult to see, to imagine that they are some birds, these kind of hayhole birds, which are going to disappear. And this creature created by the artist was going to protect them. Piccinini discovers that there were only 15 pairs of hayhole birds remaining in the whole world, and the creature she created was intended to protect this bird from people. Consequently, these genetically engineered creatures exist as the bodyguard for the hayhole bird, which also appear in some of the works in this series. It's like this one that I just mentioned there. If you are interested in her work, you can go to her website, that there are lots of beta images that you can see. Piccinini often employs familiar and identifiable Australian landscape, including rural or urban, to curate her work, through which she creates a mythicized and surreal atmosphere. Furthermore, her work seems so real and familiar to us that they connect very closely with our everyday lives. Meanwhile, these man-made bodyguard creatures has adapted to the human environment so well. Its number had begun to grow, and they now engage in all levels of our everyday lives. So, right, for example, I think this piece is called Raw Killed, which depicts a dead humanoid killed by a car on the main road. So the creature that she invented in her imagination could be killed on the road just like human being. And you will see other creatures, the creature's friends, went there to show their grief. Domain utilizes four of the bodyguards of the creatures gathering on a pile of rubbish. One of them sits on a chair as if he is the leader. As if he is the leader of the group. These creatures do seem to be enjoying playing around at this location. Piccinini's work often combines the natural and the artificial, and it connects the body and the environment, technology, and the concept of time. Although Piccinini hasn't indicated the origin of this particular creature by locating it on a rubbish heap, she is perhaps suggesting to viewers that all creatures are precious and require our care and attention. Right. This piece is called Arcadia series, and it is set in a forest which is full of ferns, moss, and old trees. 2 hellbirds can be seen there. Right. Piccinini thinks that sculptural work is like catching the frozen moment in a process, whilst a photograph presents narratives and suggests consequences. And now move on to science series. I think there are 5 pieces of science series shown in the show, as you can see in the background there. The Science Stories series was created in 2001 in the laboratory where a man and a woman are both wearing the white gowns of biosciences that you can perhaps see there, but who also look like the parents of a strange creature. And the strange creature is, it's not, let me see if I've got, no, I don't have better photographs. The body has long been an influential theme in contemporary art practice. In Bodyscape, the exhibition, 9 pieces of sculptural work are displayed, featuring the hybridized forms of people and animals. Among them, 7 pieces have been created with fiberglass. Majority of the major materials that the artist used to create her sculptural pieces are fiberglass, silicones, and human hair. While the remaining 2 pieces of the work in the show are made from bronze and steel. This is a piece that I actually mentioned in one of the photographs I've showed earlier, Bottom Feeder. Bottom Feeder is the creature cuddled by the girl in the living room. Piccinini created Bottom Feeder, that one, to explore the relationship between ourselves, other creatures, and our environment. Bottom Feeder's head and face was inspired by sharks. Can you tell? Looks like sharks. But the bottom looks like someone's face smiling. Yet its most powerful feature is its bottom here, which is full of wrinkled skin like human beings and muscles. Bottom Feeder represents an insignificant figure, similar to a shark, which relies on rotting fish or other creatures in the sea as its main food, not just eating people, but actually its main food is to eat rotten fish at the bottom of the sea. As a consequence of which, the bottom of the sea remains clean, so actually sharks contribute a lot to our environment. On first impression, viewers are likely to think the bottom feeder is ugly. But actually, if you turn around to look at this bottom, it has a very smiling, lovely face. So the artists can create this kind of contradictory feelings toward the piece. The other sculpture work, which Piccinini curated, is called The Rookie. The Rookie was curated last year in 2015. She actually first showed this piece in Hong Kong Art Basel before the work was shipped to Taiwan for the show. And it actually was purchased by a collector based in Taipei. So after the show, the works was sent to the buyer in Taipei. The Rookie takes the form of a surreal creature curated via CRISPR, which is shortened of clusters, regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. If you're interested, you can Google it. It's a kind of medical process to manipulate or create animals, creatures. This quasi-bioscientifically generated creature responds to some recent controversial news from China, which reveals that since 2015, Chinese bioscientists had been working to genetically produce customized older micropigs as pets for customers worldwide. Have you heard the news before? Despite the fact that the majority of pets are already articulate, artificially genetically bred, the micropigs from China are the first customer order pets produced via CRISPR to be made available on the market. This news also relates to the motif of creating newness in the hybridized creature, the Rookie, which combine both the human body and the objects. Don't know whether you can see clearly, but if you look at the bottom part of this sculpture, it actually looks like football shoes, the bottom of football shoes. So the artists combine how people have, do you know the word fetishism, towards an object and hybridize it with human beings' bodies. So this actually looks like a baby, but in the shape of a football boot. Inspired by the concept of surrogate mother, so this piece is called Surrogate. This piece was curated by the artist, which is related to the only video piece, which is called Tender, which I will introduce very soon. In that video piece, the young woman is depicted as a surrogate mother who nurtures young hybridized creatures. But in this sculpture, in Surrogate, light blue tint was dedicated embroidery. With dedicated embroidery was specifically made as a beautiful and comfortable home for the creature to raise and nurture her babies. Whether you can see clearly or not, that they are the creature's babies on the back of this sculpture. And the tent that the artist created serve as his home. The home of the surrogate in the video, Tender, is an unusual place. So this is a video, just a still image of the video that the artist created. There are several still images of the video, so kind of show you the storylines, if you can just have a look. But it looks like a secret home. The place looks like a secret home where the young couple are undertaking some secret experiment. Like this young couple are taking secret experiment with which they do not wish to be discovered. In this piece, the young man comes home with a large jar of protein powder, salt, sugar, vitamin tablets, etc. Like Like the man came home and the man didn't knock on the door. The man sent a message to ring the girl to open the gate. So he walked in, and even in the garden, there are strange creatures as plants, moving plants in the garden. And the man carried big jars of salt, proteins, vitamin tablets to put in the cupboard. So that created a kind of strange scenarios that how come human beings need that much proteins, nutrition. So there must be something particular, strange happening in this couple's home. It appears as if these creatures are, and then they walk into their bedroom, and people would think that a young couple walk into a bedroom, are they going to have sex? But no, actually, they are checking like this. This young man is checking kind of like a wound on the girl's belly. And people think that what are they doing? But if you look at the end of the video, you will see that there are some strange creatures like pigs there. So these pigs appear as if the creatures like their children. It is evidence that young people sell their eggs and sperms to raise some income, and that people's DNA is valuable for purchase online. Therefore, the suggestion is that the young couple are conducting some private and secret bioscientific experiments in their home. It is not difficult to imagine that this could happen among people whom we know in our lives. Right, the next piece I'm going to choose is it's called The Strength of One Arm. Like you can see here, the strength of one arm that lifts the creature up. And it does not seem to be the focus of the whole work. Like this creature doesn't seem to be the focus of the whole work. Rather, the Canadian mountain goat looks more like the key creature of this piece, this one. The creature wears a blue costume and gently and skillfully lifts his body up on a goat on his left arm, like you can see there. Resembling a circus performer, he has a pair of long flipper-like feet, and his face is similar to that of, it's called dogon. It's a kind of animal, a mammal animal in the sea. The creature's body appears to be in the process of evolving from a mammal in the ocean to a human, or perhaps vice versa. This seems to be a hierarchical relationship between the creatures and its viewers, as the creatures appear to be forced to perform like a kind of service to the audience. Through curating this piece, Piccinini is expressing her belief that any creatures created by man should have their own rights, and they should not be treated simply as objects to provide us with entertainment like the pigs, which is customized by bioscientists in China. Bodyscape exhibition also include the work called The Welcome Guest. Actually, this piece was purchased by the museum, Usual Museum of Art, because they wanted to collect this piece. That's how they contacted me, and then this exhibition was curated. This is now part of the museum's collection, and this piece features 4 parts, including a girl, a creature, a peacock, and an antique bed that you can see there. This is an unusual connection between these parts, through which Piccinini intends to challenge the stereotypes of our conception of the beautiful and the ugly. The Welcome Guest was inspired by a quotation by Goethe: "Beauty is everywhere, a welcome guest." Piccinini has utilized a peacock to symbolize beauty. Nevertheless, the beauty of a peacock doesn't perform any protection for himself, other than assisting him to survive in the competitive nature of evolution. The work has dramatically characteristics and contains strong visual elements. Like you can see that even though the peacock standing on the bed is rather beautiful looking, but actually it's very cool, very cold, as if it's nothing to do with the girl, doesn't want to engage with the girl. But the girl is actually cuddling the stranger looking creature. So the artists were challenging what is beautiful, what is ugly, not just the appearance, but the internal characteristics. Piccinini's works deal with ethical issues related to the development of biotechnology. However, it doesn't indicate directly whether the impacts of bioscience on people's lives is right or wrong. She doesn't make any judgment about that. Rather, with her qualities of tenderness and femininity, her work visualizes the possible scenario in our lives as influenced by the development of bioscience in the future. He also suggests the kind of imaginary creatures which might be created in the future and how they might live with us. Examining Piccinini's work from the past 15 years as the time scope of this exhibition covered, it is clear that she always deals with issues related to the natural and the artificial, which critically challenging the theme of technology, ethics, and life medicines. Nevertheless, her work does not aim to identify any answers to the questions that she asks. Rather, her work creates an opportunity to viewers to think and to reconsider the impact of biotechnology in our lives. Right, now just going to conclude very briefly. Piccinini's work is full of mythical and magical properties. Through her work, she questions how our lives might be reshaped via bioscience and how people's greed would affect other creatures' lives. When I was curating this show, I like to give an example of how bioscience actually has affected our life. For example, lots of like fruit or flowers or even pets that we have are actually genetically bred. Right, Piccinini's art is powerful and influential, and by utilizing objects and settings with which we are familiar in our everyday lives, her work brings her imagined creatures to life. Her unusual and alternative world overlaps with the real world, and what she creates isn't simply something from her imagination, but rather is something that she has integrated, that has been integrated within us and in our everyday reality. Right, the last slide is just some souvenirs and some publications, little notebooks that we produced with the museum for the show. Right, thank you very much.
예, 박수 부탁드립니다.